Hello, Gen Genies. Before we get started, Rich and I want to let you in on some exciting updates for our Patreon subscribers.
Patreon is a site where listeners can pledge a small monthly amount, either $5 or $10, to support the cost of bringing you your favorite podcast.
All patrons get early access to new CutOff Jeans episodes before they're released to the public.
And along with our undying gratitude, you'll also be able to join our special patron-only Facebook group.
But the most exciting new perk is exclusive access to essays I'm writing from my upcoming memoir. And you guys can help me be editors.
New Patreon supporters will also get a shout-out on the podcast.
Rich and I enjoy bringing you the CutOff Jeans podcast and would mean so much if you would consider supporting our labor of love.
Just go to patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
Thank you all so much, my Gen Genies.
And now, on with the show.
Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip, hip, hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Jeans.
Welcome to CutOff Jeans, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon-Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the producer and co-host of this podcast. Hi, Julie.
Hello, Richard.
You know, I have to admit, this morning, it was a little hard getting out of bed, so I felt a little bit like Roy Scheider and all that jazz, you know, popping the Benzedrine and having the coffee and then looking in the mirror and saying, "Showtime, folks." Except in my case, the Benzedrine was a Tylenol. But
Do you have a cigarette hanging out of your mouth?
no, I didn't have the cigarette.
That would be weird. Oh my God, you with a cigarette in your mouth is the weirdest thought to me.
You will have never seen it in your entire life. I mean, I don't think I've even had well, you know what, when I was a little kid.
You never smoked at all?
No, never. Mm-mm.
Oh, wow.
I did do candy cigarettes when I was a kid. Do you remember those? They used to sell candy cigarettes, and they even had the little red paint at the end to make it look like it was lit.
They were, in Australia, they were musk flavored. I don't know if they do that here. Musk is an actual candy flavor in Australia that I love. But whenever Americans hear that, they dry heave.
I don't think that they're legal anymore, like, because they were actually packaged.
Candy cigarettes are not, no.
Yeah, they were packaged in, like, cigarette cases. Like,
right. There was also, in Australia, we also had ones that were chocolate that were wrapped in what they looked like actual cigarettes, but they were chocolate inside.
Really? Wow. I got a big week coming up. You know, I just last week I had a little monologue in a play in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then this week, I don't know if any of our listeners are in Georgia, but in Norcross, Georgia, the Lionheart Theater Company is doing a festival of Halloween-themed plays, and the festival is called the Bewitching Festival.
Ooh.
And I have a play called the House Warning Party in it. So
House Warning Party with an N?
With an N, yes, to show that it is a comedy, a spooky little comedy.
Sure.
But if any of our listeners are there, go see it and let me know how it is, because I won't be able to make it to Georgia to see it. So, but I'm excited about it.
Well, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah. I believe it's it starts on October 21st and runs through the weekend through the 24th.
Yay.
What's happening with you, Julie?
Well, I have a corrections corner right up front here.
Uh-oh. Lay it on the line.
I don't know how this came about. And really only one person even said anything. They're like, how do I watch this? And I'm like, dude, you just Google it. So I Googled it, and turns out that the show What If that I was talking about, that shows like sliding doors, somebody's life, it had gone 3 different ways.
Yes, different outcomes.
It's not called What If at all. What If is like a Marvel thing on Disney Plus.
Oh, well, what's it called?
The show is called Ordinary Joe.
Not even close.
I know.
Happiness is just a thing called What If? Ordinary Joe. It's just a thing called Joe. You know that song?
Wow,
oh
that is a reference
God.
that I did not get. I guess I don't know that.
Maybe I didn't sing it well enough, but it's...
Is it from Jammy Yankees?
No, Happiness is a thing called Joe. I'm pretty sure it's from Cabin in the Sky.
Okay, I do not know that show.
Well, you know, it's an all-black musical, so you probably would never have done it.
I would never have done it, but I should know what it is.
It's a really good movie. It's, I believe it's Ethel Waters and...
Ethel Waters!
Yeah, and Lena Horne is in it. I think she sings Stormy Weather, and it's really good. From the 40s, I believe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Lena Horne. Mwah, chef's kiss. Can we talk about TikTok for a minute?
Why not? And I assume we're not talking about that character.
We're not
from
talking
Return
about
to
the character
Oz.
from Return to Oz, no. So I have, when last we spoke, I had joined TikTok to see if I could, do some promotions on it and just get
Yes.
like a bit of a presence. Have you seen anything that I've posted?
I saw the first thing you did look like you were in a car.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, and I'm getting better. First of all, TikTok is a cesspool that you will fall into and not be able to get out of.
I think that's their slogan.
TikTok, a cesspool. So it's the place to go for anything, really. There's an expert on everything, and there's people who think they're experts on anything. There's adorable animals. There is real life, like people. It's just so much.
Here's my experience. I can watch, like if there's a link, like when you put a link to it, I can watch it. But there have been times I wanted to watch another video, and then it makes me want to sign up, and I won't sign up, or I haven't signed up. So
Well, it doesn't cost anything.
I know, but I don't want to. It's just another email, another thing I have to sign. Another
But
password.
I don't get anything from TikTok other than, I can log in whenever I want and I can follow it, but I don't get a lot of junk mail.
I totally got burned like by Banana Republic and The Gap, which literally send me emails 3 times a day.
I get a lot of Gap mail.
Yeah.
Indeed. Anyway, if you guys want to follow me on TikTok, it's at Jules Jackson. On my name is Jen Jeannie Jules Jackson.
I love it.
Yeah. And so what I'm doing is, I'm posting all different, and I'm kind of starting in the beginning and telling people if they're adopted, if they're looking for close biological family, what the steps are. And I'm telling people, giving people tips that we've given people all along on here. But it was hard to start doing it because, have you watched the new Jon Stewart show?
I have not.
Okay.
But
so
I'm a huge fan. I love him. I think he's great.
It's called the Problem with Jon Stewart or something like that.
Yes. It's on Apple Plus or something.
Yes,
Apple TV
but the
Plus.
first thing that he said on the very first episode was, "Hi, it's me, Jon Stewart. This is what I look like now." And very self-deprecating. And I totally get it, even though Jon Stewart looks great. I'm sorry. But as a woman of a certain age that has been through some stuff and is in a place where that I look perfectly normal for a woman my age, but somebody who is used to looking a specific way and people are used to seeing me look a specific way, not that I'm some star or anything, but this is even just with people I know. It's very hard for me to just not care and put my face out there.
I personally think you look great, Julie. No, I think you look great, but I
thanks.
totally understand what you mean as far as, putting yourself. Everyone on TikTok is so young. TikTok is so young. TikTok. I like the white wintergreen ones.
That's me, white wintergreen.
Yes. So, yes, everyone's so young and pretty and all that, and so I get it.
Well, and there's filters, and believe you me, I use those. But the people I follow are actually people close to my age, so it's for all ages. But but it was kind of like pulling off the Band-Aid to like put myself out there, and this is who I am. Like love it or leave it. So
good for you. I choose to love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I think most people will also choose to love you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me see. Oh, I have a trenches update. It's kind of sad. So remember a few weeks ago, my client, after I found her mother, she said, "Oh, I know that name." And her mother had registered looking for her on adopted.com.
Yes.
They had matched up. And she had gone to Facebook and looked her up, and I guess whoever she found under that name couldn't be her mother. And so she thought it was a scam. So then they hired me, and Bob's your uncle, same person.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have spent the last month reaching out to this woman, and I can find no hide nor hair of her.
Wow.
I've written letters. I've called relatives. Not a single number works for her. It's the weirdest thing. And then a week ago, I finally broke down and I called her son. And I didn't tell him why. I just said, I'm looking for your mom. And I could tell by the way he talked that he is probably doesn't see his mom very much. And but he said, yeah, this is the last number I had for her. And he gave me a number and I called it, and sure enough, it was disconnected.
Huh.
So it's just so finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to call him back and just tell him what is going on. I have done everything. And the reason I don't tell people is because I want to respect the privacy of the biological mom.
Sure.
Of course, and give them the opportunity to, to get in front of it, basically.
Right.
And so I left him a message. I'm like, look, here's the truth. You have a half sister that's been looking for your mother. Your mother registered to find her 3 weeks ago. Blah, 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 blah. Just call me back if you're interested. And I got a call right back from both him and his sister, his older sister. And they're like, oh, yeah, we've known about her for years. We would love to get in touch with her.
Oh, well, that's kind of nice.
Yes. So it was like such a relief.
Because the mother had already told them that she had another child.
She had told them at some point, but she has issues, obviously. They mentioned maybe addiction and some other things, and they're not in contact with her right now. But I was able to get my client in contact with her half-siblings, which is a bonus, and I'm so happy.
That's
so
really nice. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like, I don't want to even call it a consolation prize because it's just part of like, again, finding new relatives that you didn't know you had. So
you share half your DNA with them.
Right.
Well, a quarter of your DNA with them. Yeah, something like that. Did you know that Liv Tyler is an NPE?
No, I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Who's her father?
Steve Tyler from Aerosmith. Yes.
Steven Tyler is her father. But so she was born, her mother is B.B. Buell, and she was a singer and a Playboy model. Shocking. And she had a brief fling with Steven Tyler in 1976. While she knew there was a chance Steven was the father of her daughter, she named her boyfriend, Todd Rundgren, who was the lead singer of Utopia, as the father on the birth certificate. She was concerned about Steven's drug abuse at the time and said that she and Rundgren made a pact that he would be Liv's father, and if it ever became an issue, we'd tell her at 18. Thoughts?
Well, one thing is you grow up thinking that your father is the lead singer of one band.
But he's actually
he's actually a lead singer. Yeah, he's the lead singer of another band. Like, it's just it's only in Hollywood.
Yeah. But she figured it out for herself.
When she saw his mouth and realized we have the same mouth.
She recalls meeting Steven at Rundgren's concert around 8 or 9 when he brought her a Shirley Temple. It must be chemical somehow, DNA and genes. I felt a connection in a very strong way when I met him as a little girl, and I didn't know why at first, but I figured it out rather quickly. She eventually confronted her mother and discovered Steven was her biological father. She later changed her last name from Rundgren to Tyler.
Did Steven Tyler know that he was her father when he met her? Or do we not know that?
He may have suspected it, but...
Actually, I think the story is he went up to her and said, you're my biological daughter. And she said, dream on. Except she screamed it, dream on, dream on.
All right, should we take a break?
Let's. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Or consider supporting us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans Podcast. Now back to Julie and me.
Hi, we're back.
Hello.
I have, you know who Amy Dickinson is?
She's
Ask Amy.
Ask Amy. I was going to say Dear Amy. No, and that's Dear Abby.
That's Dear Abby.
Ask Amy.
Yes, Ask Amy. Here's a recent letter that she got and that was published. My good friend just found out that her husband has a grown child he's never known about. This person was born many years before my friend and her husband even knew each other. He was not in a relationship with the mother of this child. My friend is shattered. She's always been proud of her long-term marriage and their great kids who are all doing well. Now she believes the reality of her perfect, in quotations, family has been shattered. She can't seem to believe the man she thought she knew could have been so sexually casual. I have I have stepchildren that I enjoy, and I'd like to convince her that this is not the end of the world. I hope she can get back to enjoying her marriage and family. I guess I'm looking for some insight as to why this is such a big deal for her, and if there is anything I can do to help her. Worried friend.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Here was Amy's response. Dear Worried, as much as any of us might understand that in theory, previously unknown relatives might surface at any time, when it comes to family relationships, the understanding of theory and an acceptance of reality are two distinct and different experiences. Of course, your friend is thrown off. Anyone would be, but if she truly believes that this makes her own wonderful life a lie, that's a deeper problem. Indeed. As one partner of a successful long-term marriage, she could be encouraged to see this as one more life challenge to encounter alongside her husband. Surely they have tackled difficulties, losses, reversals, surprises, and uncertainties together before this. Don't try to convince your friend of anything, but do remind her that this situation, which landed on her doorstep so suddenly, will actually unspool and evolve gradually. She needs to come to an understanding on her own that, put into a larger perspective, this mainly reveals everyone's humanity. I love that.
Yes.
Are she and her husband working through this with the help of a counselor? You should suggest it. So that was the letter. I think there's a huge difference between a child coming forward and being the result of an affair after they were married or after they were together.
Right.
That's certainly, I think, a much bigger challenge. I think most people would agree with that.
Yes.
But if it's from a previous relationship or even a casual thing, which happens, everybody.
Right. I could see the wife questioning his judgment if he had known about it and didn't step up. You know, in other words, if this was a total surprise to him and he did not know, then what's the issue?
It sounds like she got married with the idea that he was a virgin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or that he had not been sexually active, or sexually casual, I guess is the way they put it.
Right.
But, you know, we're in a place, I mean, my husband still openly says, do I have any kids yet on my, in my DNA? He doesn't really do that. But it would not be surprising to either of us. And my husband was not promiscuous.
Right.
He was kind of a regular guy in his late teens, early 20s.
But he also knows that his wife is a Gen Genie, and he's not going to be able to hide it if it did come out.
Yeah, there's no way around it for him. So he's doing a preemptive strike here.
Well, I have this experience in my own family, actually, because my stepfather had some children that had come out of previous relationships that he didn't even know about. And he was married to my mom, of course. And I remember my mom calling me and said, you know, your stepdad has, you know, this child who'd come forward. And she was fine with it. She was like, she wanted him to step up and meet the kid and all that. And then years later, she called me again. She's like, well, we found another one. So there were at least two that my stepfather,
Surely.
prior to his marriage to my mother.
Yeah, I had after I found my biological mother, you know, we had a relationship. And at some point, I think she sent me some pictures of a family event. And I'm like, who are these people? And she said, oh, that's John's son. And I'm like, huh? And she said, well, not long after you found me, John got a call from a child that he had from before we were together that he never knew about.
Her husband.
Oh
my God.
Her husband himself had another child, had a previous child.
Wow, that's great.
that came into the family.
No, but you know, it's nice because they were both able to understand what the other was going through, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you remember that they started dating when my mother was pregnant with me.
Yes. Oh, so he already knew that.
He already knew, and there was a conscious decision to not keep me after, which is, you know, I don't invalidate their decision, and I don't regret their decision.
Sure.
But there's certainly a part of me that is like, what was that about?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a lot going on there that you don't know about, including the fact that your birth mother, you know, still says that the person who's your birth father is not your birth father, and you're like, well, no, the science doesn't lie, you know.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that we'll never know, which is hard for somebody like me to wrap my head around. But
Does it?
I just kind of have to take it.
Yeah,
for
I
what
mean,
it
does
is.
it get easier, like, as you grow older to accept that, like, that not knowing, like knowing that you won't know?
I don't know if it gets easier. I kind of just put my focus somewhere else in
Sure.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I still hold out hope that those letters that my father wrote to his father, if those missing 3 months show up,
Right. Right. Or maybe that
because
it's-
I think the answer is there.
you know, you had also said that you thought perhaps your birth mother was not telling you the truth because she didn't want her husband to know, and if for some reason he is, you know, he passes on, perhaps she might.
He passed away last year.
Oh, he did, and she still hasn't told
Yes.
you. She hasn't changed her story.
No, I don't think she's going to.
Oh,
I don't think she's going to, and I think that maybe she really doesn't remember, which is a thing.
yeah.
I probably won't ever get the answer from her. She's not very good at expressing herself.
Okay.
She's obviously has a lot bottled up inside. She's a very sweet person. It's an interesting nature versus nurture thing because, you know, I believe nature over nurture is the more predominant affect. That's a dumb way to put it, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
But there are certain things about her person. There are things about her that I absolutely see in me. A lot of things. But the fact that I am talking and I can't shut up. I don't keep anything, a secret.
Right.
And that she is just very closed off and measured with her words. Is very different,
Yeah.
and I can only assume that came from my father,
Or it's generational.
or it's generational.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. But isn't it interesting that this little Ask Amy letter that you read, we both have stories, personal stories about that.
yeah.
Same
and
subject.
it's gonna keep happening.
Yeah.
Everybody has it in their family.
Right.
I see it every day.
Right.
So people aren't more promiscuous now.
No.
People are just like science has caught up with us. Okay, so let's take another break.
Great. Thank you for listening to Cut Off Jeans with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. You can support us by going to patreon.com/Cut Off Jeans podcast. Now, back to the program.
All right, story time. This is part 2 of my conversation with author Megan Culhane Galbraith, author of The Guild of the Infant Savior, an adopted child's memory book. We talked for a long time, and she has so much insight, and I feel like we have so much in common that I really had a great conversation with her. So I'm gonna do almost the entire conversation. So this is part 2, and have a listen, and I'll see you on the other side.
Great.
And she goes, but you have to promise you didn't get this from me. And so, And so in the mail, I got just a note, like
Angels.
handwritten note that said said who they were, where they lived, and then a picture, the first picture ever I'd seen of myself. I probably was like 3 months old. It was the only ever photo I have of myself.
Yeah, I don't have a picture
Before
of
6
myself
months.
under a year. I don't. Think.
It dropped out of that envelope, and I was like, "Oh my God,
That's
And
crazy.
I look. My sons looked just like me. My grandsons looked just like me.
Wow.
It was, and I could just see in my face this you can just tell in your own eyes. You're like, I just looked confused and like, what's going on, and like. I just looked like, numb.
Oh, I'm getting chills just
And
thinking about that.
It was such a out-of-body experience to see that, and such a gift that she would give me that. And I turned it over, and the name Gabriella, which was my birth name, was written on the back. And so
that was in your file that the adoption agency had, or that Catholic Charities had?
It must have been.
Wow.
It must have been. And, you're not supposed to get that. So she was an angel. That's
amazing. When you met your mother, did she have that?
Did she have the photo?
Uh-huh.
No, I asked her for photos. I said, do you have any photos? She's like, we did not take photos. It was not necessarily a happy time. She's like, I do not have photos documenting that time. I mean, it's very traumatic for like the birth mother. You know, it was interesting about my original birth certificate because I don't even think my birth mother has it because her place of residence is listed where the birth certificate is supposed to go is the unwed mother's home.
All of the original birth certificates I have seen of late, especially the ones out of New York, the home addresses are always the homes that the mothers were living in at that time. They're usually right down the street from the hospital, I've discovered. Because I Google addresses. I Google addresses and I'm like, well, that's right there. Right. And I realize that's some kind of institution. So, fun.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I got all this. It wasn't just my original birth certificate. It was a number of other papers and letters back and forth to my adoptive parents. The amended stuff saying it was amended. Yeah. And the original form that has my full name on there, original birth name, and my full birth mother's name, place where she was residing, and also her birthplace. Would that have gone? That information was unredacted in my files, and it says, like, it was sent to my parents.
It was sent to your parents before you requested it so your parents already had it?
That's what I am assuming, because everything is, like, copied to my parents. And
you know, this is so interesting you're saying that, because I just recently discovered the same thing. I was born in Australia, so it's a little different. But when I got my original birth certificate, so I got my identifying information, how old am I? So like 40 years ago, 35 years ago, that had my mother's name and my father's name and my name and all that stuff, but not my original birth certificate. So recently, after when I was still looking for my father, I finally got my original birth certificate, and it also had the adoption decree that had my mother's name on it, my name on it, and my parents' names and signatures on it.
Yeah.
So my parents must have
had it.
Yes. So my parents must have actually known my mother's name.
That's what I can only think, is that they knew my full name.
Yeah.
You know, my middle name is my original birth given name.
Right.
And all I can think of, like, they signed all these papers. They had to know these.
Right. I'm the same way, and both of my parents have passed, so I'll never be able to get to the bottom of that. My mother did at some point. It was very clear. They were always like, we don't know anything. We're not allowed to know anything. At some point, because I asked so many questions, I think to get me to stop asking, my mother said, I think your name was Katrina. And because she hadn't told me anything, I just figured she'd made that up to make me stop. So I didn't take it seriously. Well, guess what? My name was Katrina.
Wow.
And she got that obviously from the adoption decree, but my mother's name was on it too.
Well, see, my father would say to me that I can't remember what the timing was of this, but I had learned that my name was Gabriella, and I was like, that's my middle name, Dad. And he was like, oh yeah, we thought we named you that because we just thought the nuns named you that. And it was just, beautiful. You're the angel Gabriel and the nuns. And he had this misty-eyed story about it. Huh. And it turns out he knew they had the information. I don't know what their motivation was.
Yeah, I don't either, but I think it's like, I think their motivation is fear, but I think what they'll tell you, it was for your own good.
Oh, and I hate that. Like, don't make decisions for me.
Yeah.
I make my own decisions with the information
That drives me crazy. I'm still in a place of why you're protecting this person over me who doesn't know anything about my own stuff. Anyway, don't get me started. That's interesting. I'm finding that out a lot lately, that our parents knew a lot more than they let on.
Do you think they were counseled to not reveal this stuff?
Oh, yes. I'm sure they were advised that they were told, take this baby home. It's a blank slate. It has no history. Yep. And nothing means anything. You can mold them into whoever you want them to be, and who I did not become, much to my parents' chagrin. But, they learned that pretty fast. It's obviously changed a lot now, but it sticks in my craw. It's hard to, that's why I think it's so important we all have voices now, because that narrative is still out there that adoption is wonderful for everybody.
It's very hard having, I think it's still hard speaking out as an adoptee of our age, because I have gotten incredibly negative pushback from my family. Oh, yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I'm just talking about my feelings in this book. There's no judgment in there. There's no, I came from a loving family. I had they gave me a wonderful life. I do not wish for other parents.
All of that you have to qualify.
And I hear it time and again from other adoptees too. The minute you start speaking and you're not just like the grateful child sitting in the corner, grateful for all this stuff, like being either the perfect little girl or the one who acts out. Like, there are two kind of archetypes of adoptees, and it's both from an abandonment complex. It's the projection, at least in my family, is incredible. It's just like, absolute projection. It's another thing that I think we have to bear. It's like, well, okay, now I have to put that in its place. The only thing I've ever wanted was a family. The only thing I've ever wanted were sisters. And now I'm like, okay, well, I have a sisterhood of friends, and they're my family, because it's been quite like it's been quite the abandonment.
Yes, again.
And it's so interesting that the four people who reacted most negatively to any and all of this have been the closest to me in adoption. Meanwhile, I get beautiful messages from readers, strangers who are like, this book you're speaking in my voice. I completely understand. Like, this is like, thank you for writing this. And, none of them say, God, what an abusive household you grew up in, or gosh, my sisters aren't even in the book, and they're mad about I don't know what. So
exactly,
I said this to my father, just saying, you literally are the only one reading this way and so negatively, and let me tell you what the majority of people say. So you just have to focus. I don't focus on those four. I'm focusing on the many, many people who are, writing to me saying what an important book and thank you. And these adoptee communities that are just like, God, I see myself in this book. I see myself.
It's so important. It's so important and so helpful. And the more that is written and talked about, the more we feel heard, and the more we finally feel like we can take back our own identities and validate each other for telling our truth. And you can love, as you said yourself, and I hate that we have to qualify it all the time. Yeah, I loved my parents, loved them.
Yep.
There's just because I wanted to find out more about my own specific identity has nothing to do with them.
Right.
Nothing.
Exactly.
It's not their business.
Not a threat. It's not a threat.
Yep.
And we're all adults now.
Yeah. And I didn't come from a particularly loving family. I still loved them. And I'm pretty sure they loved me. It was difficult, but ultimately they were good people and I loved them.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm tired of people accusing us of being ungrateful for or
just general gaslighting. I mean, gaslighting and you're lying. I'm like, what? Yeah, right.
Yeah, why would I make that up? So the non sequitur nature of the book is that because it was originally compiled as a series of essays,
So it's a really great question because it gets to kind of the craft of writing and the book. The book it's not a linear narrative.
No.
I went to grad school thinking I was going to write this linear narrative, and I struggled because as adoptees, we don't get our information in a linear way. And so I started just writing as things were happening and writing these essays. And suddenly when I began to put sort of my manuscript together, I was like, there's a through line here with all of these things. And it's weird how that just happens, right? When you start writing about something you're focused on. And then I began writing others because I was writing still about this subject. And in assembling the book, I put them all together in a way that to me made sense. It also signifies like that fractured narrative. Like the structure itself is emblematic of the fractured narrative we have as adoptees. There are a lot of silences. There's a lot of unspoken, unknown information. And it's like this, I think I said in an interview somewhere, it's like this Gestalt theory, where like your brain will fill these things in. And by far readers have been like, I couldn't put this down. I kept reading. It was like cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So the structure of it was very intentional in a way, but it also was very organic because I just couldn't figure out how to do it any other way. I rearranged those things probably so many times, and I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense, and that doesn't make sense this way. And people who've read it who aren't adopted also, I think one of the techniques, is like grounding the reader in a place. And I was so lucky to be able to do that at so many places because like place is important in my narrative. So therefore place is important to my book. So in Dumbo in New York City, or in, the Guild of the Infant Savior, or in the operating room, it's like, if you can ground the reader in those places, they're like going to show up for you because they're like, okay, we're here. Okay. And you're this, and this is the time. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think that's what really kept it so interesting for me because I was like, okay, ooh, yummy. That was delicious. Now what? Now what's this bite?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, that is the end of part 2. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Okay. Before we leave, remember we have a new Patreon bumper, and there are bonuses for the next 10 senior Gen Genies that sign up. Everybody gets or the first 10 people get a handmade gift made by moi.
That's exciting.
I know, it's kind of fun. So this week I want to thank our newest $10 member, Tamber Woodworth.
Thank you, Tamber.
Thank you, Tamber. We appreciate the support so very much.
On that note, I am Richard Castle, and you can go to my website, richardcastle.com, and find out about my theater work, my piano work, and all that stuff. Or you could follow me on the Twitter or on Instagram at Castle Songs.
I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. You can follow me on the Twitter at joolsjackson. Follow the podcast on the Twitter at CutOff Jeans Pod. We have a Facebook group that you can answer some questions and join. You can also follow me on Instagram at joolsjackson and TikTok at Jules Jackson or Gen Genie Jules Jackson.
Wow.
Come and join us. I think I have 73 followers right now.
Wow,
it's pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah. My daughter said to me that she was worried that I was going to get bullied.
Why?
Just because that's what people do. And I'm like, I think anyone that's actually watching my TikToks are not the type that is going to pick something out about somebody to bully them.
Well, you know what? You can tell them if they do bully you.
Yeah. The truth is in their genes.